Geez, you know what? Life is always lifing, right? Okay. You know what? Life is always lifing, right? Thank you for joining. I appreciate you being here. I am in the middle of things, as most people are. It is Wednesday, and I told my son's school a while ago that I would show up for lunch duty. Uh, and I have about 10 minutes to put on a quick face so I can go. Don't mind the band aid. I am recovering from a mosquito bite. Um, I wanted to talk real quick as I do my makeup about life. One thing that people often, I think, is a misconception is that if you are in a family, in a household where your spouse is very busy, his work is very busy, um, like mine is. The thing of it is, it does not mean that you have an opportunity. Hi, thank you for joining. Hi, thank you for joining. I appreciate you being here and watching this video. It means a lot to me. Please click the like button, click subscribe. Please share this with other folks. I want to talk about something that's near and dear to my heart as I look for my chapstick, which I can't find it. And that has to do with living life in another city when you don't really have help around you. um, this is a very important topic, again, near and dear to my heart. And I'm just going to go for it because it's something that I think people need to hear about. It's something that we don't talk about that often. And it's one of those things that if you've gone through it before, then you know how difficult it is and can be. So, like I said, don't mind me while I multitask and do my makeup here. I am supposed to be at my son's school in about 20 minutes to help with lunch. It's an elementary school, and as you can imagine, um, teachers don't oftentimes get the opportunity to just sit and have lunch and enjoy their lunch. So they often ask for parents to come in and to help out with lunchtime so that teachers can actually sit down instead of spending their entire lunch break opening up juice boxes for people. So, in any case, here we are. Um, so, in terms of my background and my history and kind of, where my positioning stands on this, I actually am the wife of someone who's had to move to different cities to pursue their education, pursue their training, pursue their career. Fortunately, in terms of my personal career as a management consultant, it has worked out great for me. Uh oh, I'm missing a brush. Please hold, I'll be back. And we're back. As I was saying, I fortunately have a profession where I can actually work from pretty much anywhere, honestly. Um, so, my husband having to be in different cities for his training didn't really affect me so much professionally. Could I have gone further? Possibly, yes. But nevertheless, I'm out of breath from running. But nevertheless, here we are. And when I say travel to different places, I'm sure there are people who, for example, people who are married to army folks. I don't know how y'all do it. Moving from city to city like every couple of years, sometimes every year. It's just a lot. And I commend you for being able to do that. Um, that could not be me. I'm not built for that. And I, again, applaud those who can. So, for my husband's situation, we lived in Atlanta for a while. Then we had to move to San Francisco, move back to Atlanta. There was Toronto in there. And now we live in the Charleston area, Charleston, South Carolina. I am Through and through, though, a Georgia girl, in case you were wondering. So I digress. In those moves, I mean, do we have family in Atlanta? Yes. My husband's immediate family is from Atlanta. My family is from. So, in terms of all those moves, let's just start all the way over on that. Hello. Thank you so much for joining. I appreciate it. I have a cough drop in my mouth. My throat's a little dry, dealing with allergies. I have my hair clipped back. I'm actually doing my makeup right now because I am scheduled to be at my son's school in about 20 minutes to help with lunch. Teachers don't oftentimes have a chance to actually sit down and enjoy their lunch. So they put out a call for parents from time to time to come and actually do lunchtime duty, like open up juice boxes and whatever else it is that kids need while they're lunching. So do I really need makeup to sit in front of a bunch of elementary school kids? No, I don't, but it makes me feel good, so I'm going to go for it. So in any case, what I wanted to talk about today is the life the life that I have lived from the perspective of not having a ton of help around. And when I say a ton of help around, I mean for the majority of my motherhood, I have lived in cities where the nearest family member has been more than a 30-minute or 45-minute drive for most of my parenting. Now, for my I need to put this. Hold on, 1 second. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. Stay right there. Thank you for being patient. So, for most of my time as a parent, we have been in the transition and in the throes of different cities. This is the first city that we've lived in where we've actually felt like we could put pictures on the wall and actually hang things on the wall and actually set up shop, if you will, where I can nest, if you will. Now, my traveling and moving around is not nearly as hectic as, say, someone who's in the military or a military spouse, someone who has to move like every 2 years. Thankfully, that's not my story. I don't know how women and how men who are in that space do it. I commend you to the utmost degree, but I could not be that girl. I'll check my mirror over here. It's a lot easier for me to work from an actual mirror. So in any case, it's a lot easier for me to work from a mirror, which I have down here. So what I am talking about is not the extreme in terms of extreme moving around in terms of military, but I mean moving around in terms of the corporate space. And I have a girlfriend of mine who has moved around several times with her husband in his work. Is it annoying? Yes. Is it frustrating? Yes. Is it something you have to do? Yes, because you support the person that you love and you're going to support their career. That is what it is, and it's not going to change. What I specifically want to talk about is what it's like to kind of live in a space and be in a space where you live in cities where you do not have family help close by. And by close by, I mean it takes, less than 30 minutes to get to that family member. We have lived in Atlanta, Charleston. We've lived in San Francisco. I think the most isolated we've been has been in Charleston because it's a 5-hour drive to the nearest family member. Do we have friends and people that we trust who live around us? Yes, absolutely. But they're not family. It's not the same. Even though we kind of act like family because we know that we're in this together. But nevertheless, that's really what I'm talking about is when it takes more than 30 minutes, to get to the next family member. And my best friend who lives in Atlanta, she and I were talking about this when we were both pregnant with my second child, her first child, about how, you're looking for babysitters, you're looking for people to talk to and to help out with. And you realize, she and I realize that the era of big mama is no longer. Like, where are the big mamas? Where is the auntie on the corner who the neighborhood trusts that that you can take your kid to in a pinch and your kid is going to be fine and they're going to be fed and they're going to be bathed and cared for while you're at work or while you're off doing whatever it is that you need to do. So I think that's all the foundation work I'm going to do today. Because, like I said, I'm going to an elementary school. I'm not going to audition for America's Next Top Model here. So, in dealing with that, you pretty much have to establish your own sense of support system. And that can be very daunting if you've never done it before. Because I've lived in a few cities at this point, I kind of know how that works, and I kind of know how it sets up for me and what makes it comfortable for me. I do want you to comment below if you've lived in several cities as a parent with children, cities where you don't have a support system of family. What have you done to kind of make your situation easier? What I'm hoping is that this can kind of be a conversation, if you will, where we can help each other. Don't mind my Band-Aid. I'm nursing a mosquito bite. Where we can kind of help each other and support each other through that process, because as you know, and as you probably remember, it's not easy to live in a new city when you don't know anyone and you have small children, and all you want to do is have a couple of hours to yourself where you don't have to have someone hanging off your leg, because all you got is you and your spouse, and your spouse is off being great and doing their training, and you're here with kids. So ramble on to say, these are a few things that I have done, a few tips that I have learned and picked up along the way. Tip number 1 is find your babysitters, plural. Babysitters, plural. The thing about family that I love about family, like for example, if I were to call my mother-in-law today, if we lived in the same city, and said, hey, keep the kids. If I were to call my mom, if we lived in the same city, and say, hey, I need you to watch the kids for, a couple hours, couple minutes, whatever. Or, hey, we have a pre-assigned time that you're going to watch the kids. It would not be a problem at all. They would be happy to keep the kids. They would not flake on me. They would not, say, hey, I forgot I had another party to go to, or I had something else to do, so I got to cancel. Your family's not going to cancel on you in most cases, the same way that someone else might cancel on you, especially when it comes to the kids. I mean, that's their blood. So they're going to be there for their children no matter what. That's the thing that I missed about having family nearby. And when I see people in my neighborhood, in my current community, and they have, grandma who has moved to be closer, or, they moved here to be closer to a relative and to have help. To me, it is just absolutely priceless. So if that's your story, then you need to call whoever's in your family close by and just thank them for being the amazing individuals that they are in your life. That's just my perspective. But you have to find your babysitters. And I mean that plural, because it's not enough to have just one babysitter. If you've been parenting for more than 15 minutes, you probably already know having one babysitter is never going to cut it. Never. Because what's inevitably going to happen is the one babysitter is going to cancel, or the one babysitter is going to have an issue and they can't make it, or it might not be the right babysitter for what you need. So for example, I have on my list of babysitters is a wonderful young lady. She is 17 years old and she's great, but she can't babysit on school nights because she's still in high school. And that's a role that her parents have. So I have to make sure to know that, okay, she's great if I have a weekend situation. But if it's a situation over like on a Wednesday evening for an event that I need to go to, she's not the one for me to call. I need to call, somebody else. So make sure you have your babysitters on tap. Make sure you have a list of them. Make sure that your spouse or your partner knows that list of babysitters and has their information and their phone number, so that either of you that can contact them in a moment's notice. There have been several times where my husband has left. I've been able to leave my husband with the kids while I go to a meeting or to an event or something in the evenings. Something comes up. He has to go into the office emergently, and he is now stuck with the kids. And I'm like, I know you need to go, but I'm, too far away to be able to get home to you in time for you to make your situation work. So by making sure that the contact information for those sitters is in a place where both of us can find it, i.e. Google Docs, I now know that my husband can go to the list at any time that he needs to and find the sitter. So that's one thing. My mascara is in the car. I'll deal with that later. The next thing that I want to talk about is, when it comes to babysitters, is how to find these babysitters, right? So The most tried and true way that I have found babysitters when I live in a city that I don't know anyone is as soon as you get your kids set up for whatever their school situation, whatever their daycare situation is, assuming that you're going to do something external to the home, find out who from that school or from that center does babysitting on the side. Okay? This is great for a number of reasons. Reason number one, the person is already vetted. If they work for a child care center, you can pretty much bet your bottom dollar that they've already been through some sort of background check. They've been through a criminal check of some sort. They've done all the things. So there's no need for you to now have to go back. I mean, unless you want to, obviously. There's no need for you to have to go back and do some sort of check to see, are they fit to be around children? That's not going to be an issue for you when it comes to those individuals. So I love going to the school and going to, just walk up to the front desk and say, hey, does anybody on staff here do babysitting? Another bonus is that your kid already knows or is familiar with that person, and that person is familiar with your standards, because if they have certain standards they have to keep up with at the daycare center or at the school, they can pretty much mirror that when it comes to actually being around your child and being in your home. So those are two wonderful ways to kind of deal with, lip liner, to deal with that situation. Always have babysitters on tab, more than one. Also, source babysitters from your childcare center, from your school. Another great place to source babysitters is just asking around, asking your neighbors. If you have neighbors that you've met that you like their vibe, you like how they run their household and things like that, then ask them, who's your babysitter? Or even, which is even better, assuming that you trust them, you've been in the home and you trust their home, ask them if they're, if I'm in a pinch at some point, do you mind if I call you? And, if you can watch the kids for an hour or 2 hours or something while I take care of something. That's invaluable to have, and to have that in advance is much better than having to ask for it after the fact. So that's definitely two things that you can think about when it comes to finding and sourcing your babysitters when you live in a city that you don't really know many people or know anyone. Certainly ask your coworkers that have similarly aged children. That is critical. Carpool. And not even always older children, but even children who are who are younger, and whose families you trust and their, driving record you trust and all that kind of stuff. Set up carpool as soon as you can. This is MAC lip glass, by the way. The color is Rose Recollection. I put it on with Night Moth, MAC's lip pencil, Night Moth. And if you've ever worn lip gloss, you know how sticky this stuff is. So just pardon me while I, blot and pull my lips apart. Okay, we're going to go with that. Where was I? Okay. Make sure that you have, the ability to set up a carpool, especially if your kids are part of sports. Oh my gosh, carpool has saved our life. If it weren't for carpool, I don't even know if my daughter would still be in gymnastics, to tell you the truth, because it would have just worn me the bleep out, to be honest. So that's another thing that you can think about and do. The next thing that I want to talk about is your own personal routine. Now, I can say this from the perspective of, to be clear, I am not a single mother. Those of you who are single mothers, my hat goes off to you. I have no idea how you do it. Y'all are the real MVPs. I'm going to tell you the truth. There was one year during which I had to function as a single mom because my husband was out of the country during part of his training. And long story short, it made the most sense for me to stay in the States with the two kids. And the two kids at the time were ages diapers and 3. Oh my gosh, when I tell you, that was a rough period. It was a rough time. And I learned a lot about myself in terms of what I can handle and what I can't handle, what I can manage, what I can't manage. And I learned to have grace with myself. I mean, it is what it is. Now, during that time, we were in Atlanta. We had family who was reasonably close by, but given Atlanta traffic, the closest family member was about 45 minutes away. And that was my mother-in-law, and she was, of course, more than willing and happy to come and help however she could, and take the kids for, however long she could or whatever. That definitely was a blessing. But at the same time, the day in and day out of being, with the kids and being in the house alone and all that kind of stuff, I wasn't afraid, but at the same time, it was not the most, relaxing of, of situations. That is for sure. But one thing I learned quickly was I had to adjust my routines. I had to adjust how I moved in my house, because that made a difference in terms of how I was able to adjust and deal with the kids. One thing that I did, that honestly I didn't think that we could afford at the time, but in looking back at it, I don't know how that we could not afford it. And that was having a regular sitter to come in. And this one's tricky because not everybody's willing to do this. But we had a sitter who happened to be, someone who had recently graduated from the school where my kids were attending. And at the time, that school had nursery all the way up through 12th grade. She would come by from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m., three mornings a week, and she would help with the morning routine. So at the time, my son was still breastfeeding. My daughter was 3 years old, and she was kind of, doing her own thing. And she would actually be kind of my second set of hands to kind of help get the kids up, get them dressed, get them fed, all these things. I would leave her in the home to watch my son while I drove my daughter to school. It was daycare. It wasn't daycare. It was preschool. Drove her to preschool and came back home, and she was just a godsend to have. So Haley, if you are watching, I love you. You were the best. You have no idea how much you saved me during that time period of my life. I cannot do liner on camera, so I am just going to do my hair right now. I'll deal with liner later because my face is pretty much done. She was absolutely godsend. So if you can find a way to hire someone like that, please do. It is worth it. If you can't afford to hire somebody like that, I totally understand. Costs are costing right now, and inflation is doing its best work right now. So I get it if it's expensive or if it's something that's outside of budget. But if you can find someone, or even if you can share with your, neighbors close by to say, hey, you take 2 mornings a week, I'll take 2 mornings a week, and we're just going to get through this thing together. And, I'll be in charge of making breakfast, send your kids over, and I'll feed breakfast, and I'll do breakfast for the kids, this week, and next week you do it, whatever the case may be. Just work out a system that is going to be functional for you to where you can actually have some peace and some sanity. Another thing to think about, is, when you're dealing with your routines, I used to be one of those diehard, take a shower in the morning, I don't understand how you take a shower at night kind of people. I've never been someone who sweats really hard at night, anything like that. But I learned very quickly I was not going to live and exist and function if I continued this habit of taking showers in the morning, because it turned out I didn't have time between breastfeeding a baby and dealing with the toddler and getting her off to school and then getting him off to daycare and then getting home and in place to work my full-time job at the time. It wasn't gonna work. So I became accustomed to showering at night before I actually got up and got to the business of being mom. We're special people, mothers. We are, because we will get up and care for everybody else before we even go to the bathroom in the morning. First, that's just, it is what it is. But yeah, you have to think about your routines and where you're going to save time, where you're going to create efficiencies that are going to help you get through your daily routine, your weekly routine with these little people. Another thing that I had to think through was, I wasn't in a place where I could afford to get my hair done. So I had to figure out, well, how am I going to do my hair? And I developed this routine of, specifically on Fridays, I would wash my hair at a certain hour, sit at my computer and work while I'm deep conditioning, and then get back, at the sink and rinse out the deep conditioner, and wrap my hair in a towel and get it just dry enough to be able to run to, pick up my kids from their respective school and daycare. And it worked out great for me that way. I just had to figure out where to build in the routine so that I didn't get left behind, because there was no way with a toddler and a baby, that I was going to be able to have time and presence of mind to be able to relax enough to wash my hair and go through the process with them in the house. So I had to start leveraging the time that they were away at school and away at daycare to take care of some of those personal things. Of course, building that into my schedule at work because the work folks are expecting the work to get done. Um, yeah, when you're at home by yourself with two kids, all bets are off. It's just you and them kids. Um, Another thing that I would recommend in terms of, so I talked about, looking at how do you kind of figure out where your help is going to come from and babysitters, thinking about how you're going to change and adjust your routines. Also, there's another thing to look at is activities. Um, Being in the city of Atlanta at that time, Atlanta is a large city. There's always a lot going on in Atlanta, and there was a website that I used to go to called Red Tricycle, and it actually is available in a few different cities where Red Tricycle would list all the kid-friendly events that are happening in the city over the course of a day, of a week, of a month, whatever. So I would just go on Red Tricycle and find out where are the activities, where are the festivals, where are the fairs, where are the museums, where are the free visits to the blah, 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 and where's the story times and things. And that's kind of how I would build a routine with the kids. So we knew that, come Saturday morning, it wasn't just kind of this frustrating moment of, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with these kids? But rather, okay, story time at the bookstore starts at 11. Let's get it together and let's just go to story time. And the kids have somewhere to be. I have other people that I can be around to kind of, help me just sort of mentally kind of get through things. Because if you're in a city by yourself with your kids, it really is just you and the kids for a while. And that is really hard to deal with and hard to reckon with. So, yeah, find activities to do, find stuff to do. And in as much as you have a babysitter or someone else available to help you, um, find time for yourself wherever you can. For me, and this is the last point, for me, time for myself did not happen after the kids got home. I wasn't always able to hire or find a babysitter who could be there on time for me when I needed them. Um, so the time for myself, honestly, it came during 9 to 5. And I would squirrel through my work really fast so that I could sit down and take a breather or take a nap or have a moment. That's just when it happened because that's the reality of things. There was no other time. There's just no other time. So if you're in a situation where you're in a totally brand new city or in a city where no one knows you or you don't know anybody else and you have just you and them kids, these are the things that I would recommend. But above all else, find time for yourself because if you are not good, them kids ain't going to be good. I said that just the way I meant it. If you're not good, those kids are not going to be good. And if you're like me, and I think you are, if them kids ain't good, nothing is right with the world. So be encouraged. Hopefully it is for a short period of time. For me, it was for a period of a year. It almost was 2 years, but we had to regulate a little bit and make sure that it was only 1 year. But yeah, it's a roller coaster of a ride. And, for people who don't look favorably or think favorably about single women or single mothers, trying to judge based on whatever experience of life got them into being a single mother or created an environment where they became a single mother, check yourself, okay? Because being a single mother, you think being a stay-at-home mom is hard? Being a single mother, there aren't enough flowers in the world. There aren't to congratulate and celebrate single moms. So comment down below. Again, I want to hear from you. I want you to share with other people what it has been like for you to live in a city, assuming this is your situation. We'll answer the question. Do you live in a city where there aren't any family members near you? And how did you build relationships? How did you build your tribe? How do you get through life and, momming when you have to deal with kind of being in the situation with these kids? So I hope you are well. I hope you enjoy your day. I hope everything is lovely for you. And until next time, take care. Bye.